Hello, everyone. Hope everyone has had a great week so far. Give it just a second here. All right. It's like we had just a couple more people come in. Thank you, everyone, for attending. My name is Connor Parkinson. I am the head of product here at Cloud Storage Security, and I'm also a contributing member of our internal threat laboratory, Casmer Labs. Today, we're going to be covering the top malware threats of April 2025. We're going to give everything that you need to know, industry trends, and what your organization can do to protect against them. Let's jump right into it. So, what we're going to cover today is everything that we detected, located, categorized for April 2025. And so, at a very high level, the most frequently absorbed strains of malware are kind of very similar to last month, actually. So, we've kind of seen this stabilize a little bit, but number one is Mirai. It's been number one for a multitude of months, and it actually goes. It's a botnet, and it'll go and enlist IoT devices, think security cameras, anything that's connected to the internet, into a botnet to go and launch DDoS attacks. Second is similar. It's actually Prometheus. It actually exposes a recently discovered Microsoft Exchange vulnerability, which is super interesting. And then the final one is Llama Stealer, which is an info stealer. So it's been growing very rapidly in popularity. We've actually found that it's far closer to Prometheus in popularity than it was last month, but it actually goes after crypto, uh, you know, credentials, other things they can use to kind of launch secondary attacks, or for the person that deployed it to go ahead and use those credentials in social engineering, whatever it might be. After we talk about these, we're actually going to go and use our solution to detonate the malware to actually show, okay, what is it going to do if detonated, if it ended up on a local machine? What are the exact processes it's going to create, the tasks, what IPs it might connect to, so on and so forth. We're also going to talk very quickly about the most common infected file types. So this was actually also the same as last month's, but number one was ELF. So this actually goes after Linux systems, primarily servers, IoT devices, whatever that might be. The second, this one's pretty obvious, but EXE, right? It's a Windows executable, goes after Windows users, and it's most often delivered with phishing emails, malicious downloads, whatever that might be. Third one's interesting, zip archives. So, this includes .rar, .zip, .7z for 7-zip and 1rar respectively. It's a pretty common delivery method, as you can see here, and it contains those scripts or those executables that we might see above or below in the ranking here. Number 4 is shell scripts, Linux and Mac OS. It's used for kind of for the automation portion of these attacks. And then finally, .js, JavaScript. So can target pretty much anything that uses JavaScript, which makes it particularly scary and also widely applicable by the people that actually build and then go ahead and target companies with this malware. Jump right into Prometheus. So this was actually discovered in 2020, so it's pretty old. And the kind of the point of this is to mine crypto using the resources of infected machines. It's kind of similar to a botnet, but it's not necessarily designed to launch a DDoS attack. It enlists these organizations, uses their resources, uses their GPUs to go ahead and mine cryptocurrency. Another thing that it can do is also steal credentials. So it's actually partially an info stealer. It also has the ability to propagate across networks. So if you think a local machine, it mines Monero on your gaming computer that has a nice big performant graphics card. It'll steal credentials. It'll look for those, and then it can also duplicate across networks, possibly to other local machines. This is one is really interesting because it exploits the eternal blue vulnerability. And this actually goes back to Windows Vista. It's widely been patched out. Most organizations and most people who actually have this malware uh, really can't be affected by it because Windows pushes automatic security updates. But there are chances, and there's a lot of people who actually have those turned off. So it all can spread through phishing emails, social engineering, maybe an infected USB, and other forms of Trojans. And then, as we talked about earlier, network propagation. Let's talk about Mirai here. So it's an IoT focused botnet, and this one particularly is designed to launch DDoS attacks. And so it actually goes ahead and it scans the internet, local machine, whatever it might be, for IoT devices that have certain ports open that are vulnerable, whatever it might be. So think routers, cameras, DVRs, smart home gadgets, TVs, whatever it might be that has access to the internet and the ability to discharge those packets in a controlled, well, uncontrolled manner against a certain target. So it actually goes and it looks for default credentials. So when you go ahead and you set up your brand new router and the username and password are admin and admin or admin and password, it'll go ahead and look for that if you haven't actually changed those credentials. Same with root 1234, pretty common in some cloud and on-premise accounts. Once it's infected, device becomes part of the botnet, and then it waits for the attack commands. So whoever's kind of orchestrating this could theoretically have thousands of these IoT devices that are going to go ahead and bombard a certain machine or a network with packets and basically just slow it down to the point where it loses connection or stops or overloads or whatever it might be. We'll talk about Luma Stealer here. And what I kind of want to cover here, and we did cover this last month as well, but Luma Stealer in particular has gained a decent bit of popularity. And so we found about a 33% increase in Luma Stealer findings. And this is interesting. We've talked about it a lot. We talked about it at the beginning of the year in our quarter 1 threat report as well. uh, the popularity of info stealers, right? It's on the rise. Attackers, and we preach this with our AV solutions, is that attackers are going after data. We see that with cloud misconfigurations, especially sensitive data. Data is more valuable than ever, and it's actually not as protected as a lot of organizations would think. So this one is just Lemon Stealer is the most popular of a massive swath of strains of malware. Remco's Rat is another one that comes to mind immediately as something popular, but it's generated by a malware as a service vendor. And this is super interesting as well, and I want to cover this is more data, more sensitive data makes breaches more profitable for cyber actors. Malware as a service, ransomware as a service, and even in some very, very, very limited cases, generative AI make it really easy for people without the technical experience in actually building the software and actually writing the code to go ahead and target organizations. So this one in particular goes after crypto wallets, can go after MFA extensions, and also locally hosted sensitive information. Think scans of your social, things like that. So it's primarily spread through malicious links and emails. It could also be a Trojan inside crack software, and this one's particularly interesting because a lot of the material out there covers how a lot of people into pirating, into downloading and unpacking and running crack software, particularly video games, can get Lemon Stealer put onto their local machine that way. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and let's actually detonate this. So, I am going to share my cloud storage security console here. Let's see if we got it. Yes, we do. All right. So, um, this is our malware scanning console. This is kind of what it looks like. We will go in here and kind of pretend that we scanned all these buckets. So this is a test account. We use this for essentially for Casmer Labs, and we've kind of verified this. So if I wanted to turn it on, I would simply click this button, and we would actually go ahead and kick off event-based scanning, meaning that all the files that land in that bucket are going to be scanned for malware. So once we've actually done that, we can go over to see what's infected here up at the top left. What we want to do is we want to go back. I detonated this a while ago, and the reason why I detonate these files beforehand is because it takes about 70 to 90 seconds to do so, and I don't really want to stand around here and talk about the rainy weather outside. So if we go down here, this is our finding here. And I've ran this dynamic analysis on this file here. And so let's look at it. What this does is it actually sends the file over to a dedicated slice of the Sophos Cloud Sandbox. What that means is that we have our own slice that's for users. It's the only time that we will ever send data outside of your AWS account, and you actually have to authorize that. So if we go back up here, um, let's actually find a different file that we found. Let's go here. So all you have to do is click Run Dynamic Analysis here. That being said, let's go back, apply a filter for all time, and let's head back into this dynamic analysis. So it gives you a lot of really interesting and really useful information. If you're a nerd like me, this is just genuinely cool. But the first thing you're going to see is just some basic information here. It's executed as a .exe, a Microsoft executable. You can see how long it took for the analysis, so 70 seconds, right on the nose. And if you go down here, you can actually see everything mapped to the MITRE attack matrix. So you can actually see what this piece of malware does. Is it attempting to obfuscate? Is it attempting to escalate privileges? This is something that's really, really interesting to kind of get an idea of what's going on. So let's look down here. They're also going to run another AV scan on their side. And as we kind of go down here, you can see all of the IPs that this piece of malware actually connects to. And this one's interesting because you can actually look them up. Some of them are hosted on AWS, might be overseas, nowhere near when any of your employees are. Super interesting to go through these. But the most important part is the activity tree at the bottom here. And this gives you a true picture of what happens when you double click that file and you actually execute it if you're on a local machine. So in their virtual machines, it's actually looking at what exactly this piece of malware does. So as you can see, it creates a process, which creates another process, which actually goes down into msbuild.exe. And this is really something that's popular for Trojans in particular to kind of obfuscate and then create a backdoor um, that can actually be used to do whatever they want, essentially. So this one's particularly interesting, especially considering that it's an info stealer. What I want to call out here is that this is not just for infected files. You can actually run dynamic analysis on any sort of file. So if it's suspicious, if it's something that you're not quite sure, if the Cloud Storage Security Console has flagged it as maybe an error or an unscannable, that's not very common, but what's more common is suspicious. It's kind of matches the pattern of a lot of similar files. You can go ahead and execute this file without having to worry about it going off, without having to set up a firewall and your own internal cloud sandbox. You can just send it off this way and figure out if it's actually malicious or not. So, with that being said, now that you know all of the latest threats, we'll talk a little bit about how CSS helps. So we provide in-tenant malware protection for all the major AWS storage services, as well as Azure and GCP. So we are the antivirus for everything. We have an on-premise version coming very soon. We have something deployable via Kubernetes, which you could theoretically drop anywhere, releasing later this quarter. What our customers really love about our solution is that we have CISA vetted malware scanning engines. And so we have one labeled as CSS Premium. And then we also have Sophos, as we talked about earlier. So with three total engines, you can get really close to that five nines of true negatives and true positives. So you can make sure that your detections are as accurate as possible. We're not setting off any alarm bells. People are freaking out that a piece of ransomware was discovered in a bucket. Um, that won't happen if it's detected and if it's scanned with three engines. We're talking about a thousandth of a percent chance that it is a false positive. A number of configurable scanning models. So we talk about event based. I talked about that earlier, but as files land in a bucket, we'll scan those. As files, we can scan them periodically or on demand as well. So if you have compliance regulations or requirements where you need to scan monthly, quarterly, yearly, whatever it might be, we make it super easy to set up a schedule. It literally takes less than a minute. And then API scanning. And this is what a lot of our very highly regulated customers love because we can actually pass it through our endpoint and scan the file, return a verdict, and either deny it and return it back to the source or put it into a safe bucket even before it's ever written. So there's no chance that malicious files will end up in that bucket. Finally, we talked about this. And our remediation options are static and dynamic analysis. We cover dynamic pretty heavily today, but what I want to talk about is quarantining. So it's super easy. You go into the console, you click literally two buttons, you select a quarantine bucket, and then you click OK. And then that's all you need to do to make sure that all files that are found to have malicious code in them are sent off. With that being said, thank you everyone for attending. We really appreciate your support here. I'm going to stick around for just a couple minutes in case anybody has any questions I'd love to answer. If you have more questions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can also go straight to sales@cloudstoragesec.com. But what most of our customers do is they go right over to AWS Marketplace, and we have a 30-day free trial there. So you can figure out what's going on. You can figure out if you like the solution, if you like the UI, if it works for your use case, most importantly. And you have 30 days and a couple hundred gigabytes to go ahead and start to actually baseline your data. So 50 minutes or less, you can get up running, maybe 5 minutes to get configured. Um, it's pretty easy. Okay. Doesn't look like we have any questions. With that being said, really appreciate everybody's time today. Um, like I said, reach out to sales@cloudstorage.com or connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like. And we'll see you next month for the top malware threats of May. We actually our initial data is showing a pretty big shakeup. And to spoil it a little bit, it looks like more info stealers and actually a rat or a remote access Trojan. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you next time.